General Agreda was going to replace General Cueto, and it could have been smooth sailing for us. But sometimes life doesn't work out as we plan. Hey guys, I hope you've been keeping positive and motivated. If this is your first time here, I am Tor and I share my experience as part of my Life After Failure series to entertain, encourage and inspire you and people all around the world. Over the past few weeks, I shared my story of how we took our high-tech and continued its development in one of the most low-tech countries, Bolivia, in the hope to impact the country's economic development. The plan was for President Evo Morales to present our technology at the annual UNFCCC conference just 2 months away. Keep on watching to find out what happened in this final episode of Why Bolivia. A week has passed since our presentation to General Cueto, who had confirmed that our proposal would be presented to Evo Morales in the coming agenda meeting. I was eager to hear any feedback from our proposal, but it turns out we didn't make only friends. The circle of people who wanted us to fail grew like a cancer. Our proposal was placed ready for the agenda meeting, but it had been taken out by someone, preventing it to be presented to Evo Morales. We caused a lot of jealousy, it seems, within the country. While it is claimed to be a socialist country, everyone wanted a piece of the project or not have it realized at all. Bolivia's Air Force and Navy were not involved in this project, and we would later find out that the General of the Air Force was supposedly the one who removed the proposal not once but 3 times. General Agreda and his secretary risked their necks and ensured that it would not be removed again. I'm not entirely sure how much this contributed to what would happen to both of them before the year was over, but yes, Evo Morales agreed to meet with us after we had suffered in fear and frustration. But our joy did not last very long. Evo had to undergo knee surgery, and needless to say, we felt so devastated when we learned that our meeting was postponed. I don't really know where we took the strength and energy from, if I'm quite honest. My father, for example, he had heart issues, but his cardiologist was surprised to see that his readings were the best he had ever seen in my father, which to him didn't make sense, given that we were working at 12,000 feet with little sleep, a lot of pressure and stress. Our persistence paid off, as it turned out that it wasn't the end yet. We suddenly received an invite and letter not only to present to Evo Morales, but to actually be part of the 200th anniversary celebration of the Bolivian army on the 14th of November. We got another shot at it, probably our biggest opportunity yet. But what was the status of our development? Would we be ready? Well, as we were just days away now, we were depending on all the support from the machinists and especially the electrician working on base, who from one day to the next turned on us. The machinists were awesome. They didn't care what they were told. In fact, I've never since then found anyone to work with who believed in us, our vision and the technology to transform Bolivia, as they worked so hard to make it happen. Not for us, not for them, but for their belief it could make an impact in their country. You see, these men hadn't received their salary by the army for the past 3 months, which we were not aware of at the time, but despite it all, they came to work to help us. The electrician, on the other hand, he screwed us over good. He started working on connecting everything together, but then he said that he had another project to work on for a bit and he would come back to finish everything up. As we wait and wait, no electrician. Eventually he responds to our calls and tells us that he has received direct orders, apparently from Colonel Villarreal, the third signing party of our agreement of all people, to not support our project or help us in any way. I could not believe my ears. We did what we could and worked until late into the night trying to make the engine presentation ready, but at this point we didn't know if we could present to Evo Morales like this. Tensions were very high. Carolina prepared her speech to address President Evo Morales, and that night we probably only got about 3 hours of sleep. And with all the uncertainty as to whether we would be able to present our technology and engine to Evo Morales, we hadn't invited the machinists from El Alto, which definitely was a faux pas on our end. We're left in this room to prepare and set up as the celebrations are proceeding outside in front of a large audience, but we didn't get to enjoy any of it as we are busy setting up and trying to make sure everything was going to be perfectly fine. The room started filling up. All of a sudden there were news channels with huge cameras setting up. General Agreda in his finest uniform wishes us well. Then someone runs into the room shouting, "They are coming, they are coming." Last minute, Colonel Villarreal sneaks into the room just before Evo enters and stands in line with his shiny medal. I was shocked, but then again I wasn't. But I could couldn't have been prouder of my wife as she introduces the project to Evo Morales. My father sat in the back away from all the media. Why? Charles, the person responsible for the loss of our software business, was very eager to make our life a living hell. Not only did he steal our business and our money, he was looking for an opportunity to put my father behind bars. My father was speaking with Vögeli on a regular basis, someone my father had literally saved from ruin. But people forget how they got to where they are and who got them there. He was a double agent conspiring against my father, pretending to be on our side, but eventually being one of the persons pulling that guillotine. But this is a whole other story. However, if there is interest for it, I will share it in more detail. Just leave a comment down below. Colonel Castellanos presented the PowerPoint presentation, followed by the presentation of the engine. Months, well, actually years of work for just about 30 seconds. But the main thing was that it all went well. We didn't realize that the news channels were broadcasting our presentations on live television, and Carolina's father told us that he had seen us on TV earlier. We even made it onto the evening news. Evo Morales, who still seemed in quite a bit of pain after just days of surgery, was eager to leave and rest after what would have been a long day, so we didn't see much enthusiasm or excitement. But as we take Coronel Barrero and his family out to eat, he receives an unexpected call within an hour of our presentation. It was Colonel Castellanos telling us that Evo Morales requested us to be at his residence tomorrow morning at 5 AM to do the presentation again in front of the cabinet and other leaders who were not present for the presentation, which included Vice President Lineras. Wow! We would join the agenda meeting with Evo and his cabinet. The night was short again, just a few hours of sleep as we head to Evo's residence. We wait in front of the building before we are let in, security's tight, but we see the bodyguard from yesterday who shakes our hand, I believe, in the support of our mission. We would sit for about 4.5 hours in this very English looking tea room. At 10 AM someone comes in and says only 3 people. So my father, Colonel Castellanos, and I head up some stairs into a room filled with people. Colonel Castellanos starts the presentation again, but Evo Morales interrupts and stops him. Evo looks at me and asks, "What do you want?" I freeze and don't even think before I talk. Instinctively I just blurb it out by accident. "We want to improve the standard of living for the Bolivian people," as my voice breaks. I didn't even think about the UNFCCC conference when I respond, as I clearly wasn't prepared. Colonel Castellanos was a bit upset with my answer to the president. I feel like I messed up. The only chance I had to tell Evo himself what we wanted, and I blew it. Or did I? Evo Morales tells me he has no technical knowledge and he will arrange for a meeting with someone from the National Energy Company. He did not waste any time, as we would meet 2 engineers who were supposed to report back to him if what we were proposing was viable or not the next day. Tiredness is seeking in. It has been almost 3 months of intense work, and staying on the ball became more and more difficult, especially after 3 intense days presenting to Evo Morales twice and now meeting with some respected engineers who would decide our fate. But they understood the principle very well. But more importantly, they understood why our technology can be mass produced at $10 per kilowatt compared to $1,000 per kilowatt while delivering the same energy capacity. If I'm completely honest, that is as much as I remember from this meeting. I don't have any recollection of how it ended, but soon after we did receive a letter of support, which was excellent news. We couldn't slow down much though, as there were many improvements to make on the engine. But we moved out of the workshop in El Alto, and General Agueda gave us access to a workshop in the city that he was overseeing. Now that there wasn't a real deadline to meet, we were able to pay some more attention to a geothermal version of the engine, for which we previously had sent a proposal to the Ministry of Energy too. We continued to work hard and long hours while negotiations for a development and commercialization agreement began. Colonel Barrero tells us that he is getting more and more calls and visits to his office lately to interrogate him about our intentions. There was still a keen interest to get us out of the way by some. But General Agueda was still a big supporter, and we would just have to wait a few more weeks before he would be declared successor of General Cueto, which we hoped would make our life a lot easier and straightforward. We had the agreement all drawn up and ready to sign with General Cueto, but the signing date got dragged out and postponed. There were some political issues. We didn't know it yet, but these would boil over very soon, virtually destroying everything we had worked so hard for. Evo Morales traveled to Venezuela to provide relief material after heavy flooding in the country. That same day, Vice President Linares, who we met at Evo's residence, announced the country would increase the fuel prices by 80%. Conspiracy theories say that it was an attempt by Linares to topple Evo. But in any case, this caused us huge issues. Apart from huge demonstrations, burning tires and taxi drivers going on strike and beating other taxi drivers who decide to keep on working, the army transported people from La Paz to El Alto and back again as they could not afford the public transport. The army also started baking bread to limit the inflation of the cost of bread. General Agreda was overseeing this. But I remember it like it was yesterday, when Carolina calls General Agreda to ask him to meet him. As he picks up, he tells Carolina he just got fired and he cannot help us anymore before hanging up the phone. He was just days away from his promotion, and then this. We both had a huge lump in our throat. The number of supporters in power was tumbling. Even Colonel Castellanos was leaving after serving his 2 terms as rector. In a close call to getting hurt ourselves in the demonstrations, trying to get a taxi to the military base, the last day of the year to negotiate an agreement, we had enough. We escaped to Carolina's father in Santa Cruz, where there was little to no civil unrest at all. Then, 11:45, Evo declared fuel prices would be brought back down, effective immediately. All of our work led us to achieve some sort of celebrity status, but it meant nothing in the end. There was nothing left for us to do, other than to go home. But we also didn't even have a home to go back to, which is how we ended up back in the UK. All of this broke me on a number of levels. There was no money left. I felt like the biggest failure. I let everyone down. I failed my father, my mother, my wife, and especially my children, who didn't even understand what was going on. Even though there wasn't much I could have done, I felt responsible, and I was having the most difficult time trying to shake this, that eventually led me into a deep, deep depression. Today I can appreciate the experience in Bolivia, as I've learned and after several years finally found life after failure. Thankfully, I had a loving and supporting family who has helped me through this. I'm especially thankful to my wife, whose support never wavered and is always there for me when I need her. Finally, let me say that whilst we didn't achieve our goal, the experience and challenges thereafter shaped me to be a stronger, even kinder and more humble person, appreciating and loving every moment of my life, finally ready for my next big adventure, whatever it might be. Maybe the development of my VTOL aircraft, producing my Infrastructure Africa documentary, or maybe something completely different. I'm living life with an open mind, and I'm ready for whenever the opportunity strikes. I hope you enjoyed this little video series. I realize this has been quite a condensed version of the story, and I try to tell it as complete as possible, but if you have any specific questions you would like answered, just leave it in the comment section below. Finally, the one thing left to say is thank you for all your support. I will see you in the next one, but in the meantime, stay positive and stay motivated.